Vanachari Madhava Jaya Vindya Vihari Madhava Jaya Vindya Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Devaya. Naranam namaskritya naram chaiva narottama devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayet. Okay. We're reading from Canto 7, Chapter 7, Text 48. Tasmad Artash Cha Kamash Cha Dharmash Cha Yat Apashrayaha Bhajataniha Yatmanam Aniham Harim Ishvaram Tamasasta Cha Kamascha Dharmascha Yat Apashrayaha Taniha Yat Dharmascha Yat Apashrayaha Tataniha Yatmanam Aniham Harim Ishvaram Tasmaratascha Karmascha Dharmascha Yat Apashrayaha Bhajataniha Yatmanam Aniham Harim Ishvaram. Tasmadatascha Kamascha Dharmascha Yat Apashrayaha Bhajataniha Yatmanam Aniham Harim Ishvaram Tasmadatascha Karmascha Jataniya Yatmanam Ishvaram Tasmaratascha Karmascha Dhammascha Yadapashrayaham Jataniya Yatmanam Aniham Harim Ishvaram Jataniya Yatmanam Yatmat Taha Cha and Cha Dharmaha Yadapashrayaha Worship Nihaya without desire for them Atmanam the super soul Aniham indifferent Harim the the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishvaram, translation and purport by four principles of karma and moksha all depend on the disposition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, my dear friends, follow in the footsteps of devotees. Without desire, fully depend upon the disposition of the Supreme Lord. Worship Him, the Super Soul, in devotional service. Purport. These are words of intelligence. Everyone should know that in every stage of life, we are dependent upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Dharma, religion, which we accept, should be that which is recommended by Prahlad Maharaj, Bhagavata Dharma. This is the instruction of Krishna. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. To take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna means to act according to the rules and regulations of Bhagavata Dharma, devotional service. As far as economic development is concerned, we should discharge our occupational duties, but fully dependent on the lotus feet of the Lord for the results. Karmani evadikaras tema paleshu kadachana. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. According to one's position, one should perform his duties, but for the results, one should fully depend upon Krishna. Narottama Dasa Thakur sings that our only desire should be to perform the duties of Krishna consciousness. We should not be misled by the karma mimasa philosophy, which concludes that if we work seriously, the results will come automatically. This is not a fact. The ultimate result depends upon the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In devotional service, therefore, the devotee completely depends upon the Lord and honestly performs his occupational duties. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj advised his friends to depend completely on Krishna and worship him in devotional service. Translation again. The four principles of advancement in spiritual life, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, all depend on the disposition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, my dear friends, follow in the footsteps of devotees. Without desire, fully depend upon the disposition of the Supreme Lord. Worship Him, the Super Soul, in devotional service. Namagyanatinmirandasya ginanjana shalakaya chakshu militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadam Dikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Shagatatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitamtam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Chaitam Surato Pango Mama Manda Mategati Matsavasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Kam Karati Vachalam Pangum Langate Girim Yakripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivesesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Dezatarine Anchakalpatarivescha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Madhu Vadavachi Madhuvidi Sparanti Sadavaha Sarva Savakarishu Marvam. Okay, good morning. So we continue with Prahlad, what Prahlad was learning whilst he was in the womb of his mother. And in this text here, we start with the four principles of advancement of the spiritual life: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, which are known commonly as the Purusha Arthas, Purusha being human, and the Arthas are the aims or goals of life. This is interesting for me because, like 20 years ago, I was told to stop teaching the managing director of a financial institution in Milan. Why? It's interesting because I was supposed to bring him to a level of B3, which is, I think, intermediate level of English, so that he could actually meet the profile of his appointment. And in all the 3 months that I taught him, so it was every day, Monday to Friday, he never once spoke English to me, which was quite distressing to me. And all he could talk about was in Italian, which I then translated to him in English, was about cars. And the particular car that he liked was the Audi. And that's why, whilst he was talking about this, I was thinking about these four Purusha Arthas. And so I call him the Audi conundrum, which whilst he was talking about the car, I was trying to think, how do I sort this out? How do I actually view Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha? And obviously these four, I represented my mind with these four rings, which unfortunately happened to be the what you call it, the symbol of the car that he continued talking about. But I then concluded that there was no linear actually order in these four Purusha Arthas. They were actually how do you call it? They were actually more complex than like the three gunas. So there are permutations to them. Now, I think the best way to do is to actually look at them individually. So Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. By the way, a month after I left that service, because he considered me too aggressive, because he asked me if I did not want to have a car like the car that he was thinking about, and I told him I didn't worship false gods, and that put me in a big trouble with the school. He lost his job a month later because he was as a pawn in the game of the central bank against the financial institute. Anyway, he walked away with 5 million euros. So I wasn't sorry for him. Anyway, Dharma. What would you consider Dharma to be? Is it just religion, Dharma, or something more, according to your knowledge of Shastra?
Your duties, like living in a household life or taking care of people around,
Okay, good. Because Dharma, from being religious and observing various rules and regulations, is actually can be seen as a guideline to harmonious living. So you are in this material world. So in order to live with it, you should try and live with it harmoniously, by having decent moral values, knowing what is right and what is wrong, and behave or conduct yourself correctly. Okay. What about Artha? People I usually see in translations money, and then it appears to be something quite obscene, but it isn't really. It's anybody? Yes, it is. It is indeed. Yeah.
I think maybe in a general sense, it's like increasing your good fortune somehow.
Yeah, it is. I suppose you can actually say it's to do with overall prosperity. So you you get, as you said, economic development, but you actually try and see the benefit of having, let's say, a good car or a nice house, for example, and yet you still maintain this harmonious living with nature, free from disagreement. And that is Artha as a material wealth. Then karma. Is karma just about lust? Is it just lust, or is it something more? There's, it's translated as desires, I think, karma. Maybe if you can see that. Anybody got any other opinions, Prabhu? Fruitive activity.
Looking for facilities.
Right. Yeah. You mean by fulfillment of desires in that sense?
Yeah, little opulences that come your way.
Yeah, it's with, also pleasure, isn't it? Pleasure. It can also do with love in the material sense, maybe. Prabhu, did you?
Yeah, I think, yeah, generally, maybe is it the message comes, dharma is doing some pious religious activities so that Artha, you get some money out of it and then you can do sense gratification. And generally, when we say sense gratification, maybe the message comes is into illicit activities, say. But I think one of the things, like hearing some of Prabhupada's classes as well, dharma is like performing religious activities, God-centered activities, say, and doing charitable purposes as well, keeping God in center. And by that, economic development, as in good health, good well-being, overall good prosperity, good rain, good produce, harmonious, peaceful society and all, so that people are now leading towards dharma, artha, kama, like people can have a life, good peace of mind. That's like, okay, and in that healthy peace of mind, healthy relationships and all, and they can enjoy life as in family life and relish family life and all, and ultimately then move towards liberation when coming to age of 60 and all, and then move towards liberation.
Because I mean, this word karma actually, it can also mean it culminates in a lot of cases with sexual gratification, which is an essential desire which Shastra acknowledges exists, but only through the institution of marriage, and not just for sense gratification, but for begetting children. I think Krishna says this in the Gita in chapter 7. He says, Dharma virudo bhuteshu karmosmi. He says that I am sex life, but not contrary to religious principles. And it can also be translated. I've seen this written by other devotees. You can also say that he could also mean that I am ambition, but not contrary to virtue or morality. Because what you karma is a desire. It can be a desire for a better position in a job, not just about the sex thing, because it's a strong desire. And we what do you call it, the desire for something can be something so strong, and that's why the permutations of dharma, artha, and kama are a very strong mixture that go hand in hand before you can go for moksha. Because moksha in the end, what is moksha? It means liberation, but it's getting out of the material existence. Yeah, I think what is there is the same something in the what you call it, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where the Madhya Lila. I think it's this Veda Shastra Kahe, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, which is the our ambition. Did you say something?
Didn't want to interrupt your flow, but I just wanted to add something. I can do it later if you like. Okay, so just regarding karma,
Yeah.
so that can also refer to subtle things such as the subtle aspects of sex life or name, fame, adoration, and gain. So just like Lord Chaitanya says, I don't want women, wealth, or followers. So followers also comes under karma, because it's like some personal desire for position, fame, to be distinct, things like that. So, and I think that also ties in with what you say about liberation. Sometimes people have so many desires to fulfill, and then finally, once they've filled all the desires, they've had their big position, all the rest of it, they realize that, it's not doing it.
Yeah. I think the problem lies in the fact that we can get entangled in all these things, because, for example, some people perform dharma for the sake of obtaining artha and karma, and they even think and believe that this is a success of life. Unfortunately, yeah. And I think in Krishna calls people like that avipashchita, which is a man with a poor. I think Prabhupada translated it really nice. He's so cultured and gentle. He says, "Man with a poor fund of knowledge," and and yet he always said one shouldn't be a diplomat, which always say what is the truth. And I think I don't think it's in the 9th chapter that Krishna actually tells Arjuna that those who seek enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the 3 Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. Right? It's and that's very true. You can focus on certain things, but not actually forget everything else. A very good lesson that was given by Narada Muni was to Yudhishthira in the Mahabharata. He tells Yudhishthira that householder life is a kind of life that should not pursue dharma at the cost of artha and karma, nor artha at the cost of dharma and karma, nor karma at the cost of dharma and artha. When I first read that, I thought Narada Muni was trying to gaslight Yudhishthira, but he wasn't. What he was saying was purely logical and true. The 3 cannot be separated in order for you to then go on to moksha. Because if you look around everywhere in the world, most people actually more into artha or karma. And when you are after artha, then you don't have time for God, and you don't have even time for your family. Unfortunately, I've seen it happen many times, also within my family. And then then those who make money have no time for God or family. Then those who make inverted commas love have no time for God, and they actually become financially irresponsible, because lust, I think Prabhupada says, destroys the purity of love, and then you go into more greed and for more, and then it destroys all common sense. The whole idea is to pursue these 3. Dharma, artha, and karma in equilibrium. Artha means the availability of resources, be they financial or others, and they are there, but one should not actually expect them, as this verse says, to follow dharma. And once you get it, you shouldn't dedicate it to karma, because that is complete folly. And yet we cannot just concentrate on dharma. Why? Because if you without financial solvency and neglecting resources regarding financial solvency, we would not be able to pursue dharma in a proper way. Because we are in this body, so we must eat, we must live. We're not renunciates. Krishna says in the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it is better to do your duty than not to work, because without which one cannot actually maintain the body. Are there priorities? Yes, I mean, if we take Krishna's Vanashrama from Gita, there is a certain priority for these three goals. For example, in the Brahmachari ashram, the focus is on learning dharma. Okay. However, along those lines, you need to also learn skills by which to maintain yourself by artha. So the dharma in the case of that ashram is primary. And you may ask what kind of skill? Any skills? I mean, that you can use to make yourself some wealth. Now, in the Grihastha ashram, where one gets married and lives a household life, artha is very necessary, because you have a responsibility and duty to maintain your family and put food on the table. And then, as we already mentioned about karma, that is only for producing children. Then with this mindset and keeping dharma always as the tranquilizing force in household life, you can then move towards renunciation and then seek moksha. So it is in a way a sequence, which I said before. It wasn't so clear cut, but a sequence within the circle of life. And yet, in household life, you must be conscious of moksha and pursue it to some level. Otherwise, one would get actually entangled in your life, and that is because we have these problems with attachment. First with our body, then the second biggest attachment is family, and then third, possessions. Now, but moksha, as I said before, is liberation from material existence. But what is the highest liberation, according to Prabhupada? Prabhupada actually says, love of God, bhakti, is the highest liberation. Because when you follow those three goals, you use one to benefit the other, and vice versa, but without actually forgetting what you should aim for, which is moksha, and the best moksha is bhakti. You use artha to maintain yourself, and karma, which is desire. The desire not to be abused on desire for material or things that please your senses. Your karma should be actually directed towards the truth and obtaining the truth. Because when you get the liberation, the highest liberation, bhakti actually harmonizes dharma, artha, karma, and moksha. It is the balancing element, which is essential. Now, I think we as Vaishnavas actually don't pursue the rituals of Dharma. We focus on performing the Dharmic rituals of bhakti. Again, what are they? What are the Dharmic rituals of bhakti? Chanting, one. Number two, anybody? Huh? Oh, good. You've been reading the same book. Then we have what Prabhu's doing there on the altar, deity worship. Apart from association, we should also study Shastra, yeah, because it's not about studying Shastra is not about being getting one on top of another person by I know this and you don't know this. Studying Shastra is actually purifying. I believe Prabhupada once received a book, I think Srimad Bhagvatam. It was just printed by I can't remember. I think it was in the Los Angeles temple, and I think it was, but I might be wrong. Tamal Krishna Maharaj presented with this book, and Prabhupada opened the book and he read this chapter, and he said this chapter is about Krishna. This is absolutely about Krishna. Then he turned some more pages back and forth. He was sort of browsing, and he said, actually, this page is absolutely about Krishna. And then he went on. He said, no, actually, this paragraph. And then he went on. He said, actually, this sentence. And then he said, this word. And then he closed the book. He said, every letter is Krishna. And I never forget that one. Right. Also, the Dharmic rituals of bhakti can also include the honoring of prasadam. Don't forget, which we all like, which is in about 15 minutes' time, just in case. Now, these four rings that I mentioned actually become 5 rings when you read the Adi Leela of Chidamrita, where he says Pancharama Purushartha. So there is a 5th goal, and that 5th goal is prema. Because it's also with the Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Where is the personification of prema? He's not here. Anyway, that is the ultimate goal is prema, and this is the 5th goal that we should. It is so. It's called the Panchama Purushartha. Srila Prabhupada said, bhakti, devotional service, is more or less your personal declaration of war against Maya. Yeah? And the beginning of bhakti is surrendering to Krishna, because actually bhakti will help you control the mind. Why? Because if you remember in the 6th chapter of Gita, Arjuna says, Chanchalahi mana Krishna. Krishna says, Abhyasena tu konteya, by practice. And bhakti actually forces you to practice practically to control the mind. Krishna also says that the mind can be a friend or an enemy. Yeah, it's the Atmano Bandhu or Ripur Atmana. Prabhupada also continued to say that devotional service to the Lord is not a material activity. It's part of the spiritual world where eternity, bliss, and knowledge predominate. Because if you serve Krishna with body, mind, intelligence, and words, then you are liberated even in this world. You are experiencing moksha. And what is even more important, Prabhupada mentions that that material activities and their results actually end with this body that you're in. It doesn't continue, but your work in Krishna consciousness carries on in Krishna consciousness. Should you be born again and you would come back as a human and most probably a devotee in a good Vaishnava family. So we started with 4 rings of the Audi car and ended with 5 rings of the Olympics. With this prema being the last ring. Okay, I stop there. Any questions, comments, observations? Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
That when one, in Krishna consciousness, one may have many different desires, but if we try to fulfill those desires well in devotional service, then Krishna uses that desire to help us give it up. So, and then finally, so for example, say you've got a desire to have something or do something or be something.
Yeah.
So, because if we can utilize it in Krishna's service, so just like Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted something material, but when he got Krishna's darshan, he realized he didn't really want that, but Krishna gave it to him anyway because he was no longer attached to it.
Right.
So sometimes Krishna fulfills our desires in such a way that we're able to give them up. But then he just requires us to do that as a duty anyway. So it's not just because we've actually given up the desire for it, Krishna says, well, that's okay, but carry on with it. So, but whereas the materialist, do they just renounce in the mode of passion because it becomes troublesome? And then, so how do they get moksha from this dharma, artha, kama? How do they get their moksha?
Okay, you get the moksha. Question.
Because for a devotee, they become liberated because their activities are then done as a transcendental duty.
I think as devotees also we can be attached to our service in many ways. I think it comes to the thing is whenever you get too comfortable in something, Krishna will take away that comfort. Because he wants you to find comfort in uncomfortable situations, and this, I think, this as a devotee, you will find this. It's a reoccurring thing. I'm just trying to think. Like myself, I was pretty happy, very happy doing serving in Govinda's, the cultural center in Milan. And in fact, all of us we were a good team. I remember one Prabhu. He was a brahmachari, a lifelong brahmachari. He was there from the beginning. He never took his second initiation because he thought he would have to leave Govinda's. And lo and behold, his guru imposed the Brahminical thread on him, and so he went and lived in the temple and served there. But then he also became happy because he found tranquility in that service. And for all of the rest of us, Krishna brought COVID onto us, and so they closed Govinda's down for I think nearly 2 years because we didn't have the seating arrangements of a proper restaurant that could keep everybody 2 meters apart or something. I don't know, and other impositions. So. I don't know, but about how Krishna applies this method on everybody else. But I know that I know there's one thing that he does that we should always appreciate. He gives us what we need and not what we want. And that is if you go back and look at your life, there has not ever been any distress that Krishna has caused us. The distress is in our minds. It's nothing to do with God. We think it's a distress. Actually, it's a gift in order to purify you and make you a better person. or a better soul, the real person. Does that nearly answer your question, Prabhu? I don't know if I've forgotten your question. Yeah.
Back to that is that it's, for devotees, we can see how our activities lead towards liberation. But for the non-devotees, and it seems like Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that liberation for the materialist is generally impersonal liberation, and it's very troublesome. Whereas it seems like, so that means that, and there's very few people go for that, because if they're doing this dharma, artha, kama, moksha, then generally they're kind of stuck on the first three, and they, especially in Kali Yuga, we're not smart enough to, even if we're being suffering, we don't give it up, we become too attached. So it seems like, even though the world, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, is mainly impersonalists and voidists, not many of them are going to get liberated, if any, whereas Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is actually going to be the saving grace for everyone in Kali Yuga.
That's true. But I mean, any kind of small liberation is a step in the right direction. I think even for a materialist, because Krishna will somehow arrange for them to meet one of you guys on the street, and one of us, in some form or other. Sooner or later they will come in contact, but they are already in contact with God, because even though they're in contact with Maya, which is indirectly Krishna and his inferior energy, it's Krishna knowing how to catch that fish, so to speak, because he is the perfect angler. He knows what you need, but he also knows that in order for you to understand what you need is to give you what you want. And in some case, as you say, in materialists, probably he gives them a lot of what they want first, and then slowly erodes it away, because it's like sculpturing. You slowly take away the pieces of stone or wood, and then until you get the perfect sculpture. Yeah, I think that would be how I see it.
Yeah, thanks. And that makes sense, because Prabhupada always encouraged whatever people were doing, which was religious, to do that. He didn't discourage them from doing that. And he said, if you do that, you get liberation. So whether that meant that they would, if they did it properly, then they would see that the devotees are their friends and well-wishers, and there would be more chance of the devotees benefiting them. And I guess we could also see that by agyata sukriti, if they even have some piety and they do something, if a devotee shows them mercy, engages them somehow, then by agyata sukriti, service unknowingly, then maybe a few births they'll become a devotee in due course, and perhaps we were that too.
Yeah, I believe that very sincerely, that we must have had this how do you call it, good fortune in previous lives to be here sitting in this temple, for example, and that, because once you go in that direction, you actually can't turn back, because Krishna never forgets what every little you do, and it's he said that every step you take toward Krishna, he will take 100 steps towards you, or less, but then he'll take more than what you can give or you can afford in your how do you call it, your material cage, which is his body. Any other comments? Kartikeya, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for it's very insightful class. So today's verse says, without desire, fully depend on the disposition of the Supreme Lord, worship Him, the Super Soul, in devotional service. So, Prabhu, how to come in that stage where we don't have any desires? Because, like, we see, even if we don't have like big desires, we can still get small desires. Oh, I really want to have ice cream today, something like that.
The ice cream is prasadam is okay, because it's already been offered to Krishna. Yeah, I mean, we are constantly being bombarded by desires, big or small. But the more you get involved in bhakti, then you find that it purifies your desires into wanting to know more about Krishna and not about these other things. And those things will at the end outweigh your little desires. Yeah, where they become ephemeral. They come and they go. They don't mean anything. But what really stays is that eternity, bliss and knowledge. That's what That's what we're seeking to go for. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Any more questions? Problem?
Just a comment, really, that it uses the word disposition to depend on the disposition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there it implies that devotional service isn't mechanical.
Right. Okay. Yeah, exactly. It's not mechanical. Absolutely not. It's devotional. So devotional, as the word devotion, it means love. It's something deeper and not, as you say, mechanical. It is not a routine. It's something that you're happy to do. I'm just trying to think of a simple example, like the duty to chant 16 rounds that a vow that you give your guru. It is, you don't see it as something that I must do this because I promised my guru I will chant 16 rounds. It is. You should see it as an opportunity to stay. To get on what you call long distance call with God, and it's free as well. It's not, you don't have to pay anything for it, and it actually cleanses you, prepares you for the day. As you all know, when you come to the temple, and then before you go into your japa session, you how do you call it? You go through and view and observe the 10 offenses, and then you chant. Because with that in mind, you won't find that chanting is actually mechanical, but actually there is a serious and deep purpose in it. Okay. Yeah. Disposition is the tendency, means tendency of some. For example, some people's disposition is to get angry when they react to something. Krishna has his tendencies as well, according to individual relationships, I expect. Yeah, your inclination, tendency, that's the meaning. Krishna's tendency in all cases is Suridam Sarvabhutanam. He wishes us only well, and this is what he wants to pass on to us: is to wish everybody well. Is that tendency? Jacob, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. To think of the disposition of Krishna, then, would it be sort of quite joyful, very affectionate, loving? So this instruction to, without desire, fully depend on the disposition of the Supreme Lord.
It's plastered all over the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
This disposition. I think I said it before in another lesson. The two verses that he repeats, Manmana Bhava is to say, always think of me always and be my devotee. What it really means is I think about you all the time as God, and I am very devoted to you. And this the whole book, the Gita, spells it out clearly. So that's his disposition. I mean, there's no other disposition. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bothered. He said, well, tough luck to you. You made your bed, you lay in it, go to the material world. Don't come back. He wants us back. And so he sends people like he came down as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he sent, in order to remind us, he sent Prabhupada, and he sent all our gurus down, all the devotees, because we are all his instruments here to try and bring back every soul back to Godhead. This is our purpose. That's why we should never discount our good fortune that we are part and parcels of his machine to get all these people back. Okay. Okay. And nothing else. Okay. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Nantakuru.
Jai.